Yeah, it's fine. Hello.
Yeah, Majid, that's fine.
Yeah,
Just brief you about me. I'm
sure.
working as a technical lead.
Hmm.
Mainly, I've got expertise of working on the Java, microservice, software, right, and another related tech stuffs.
Okay.
So, on the domain-wise, I've got expertise into banking, finance, and logistics side,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, this is we are mainly into the microservice side, mainly like for the past few years, and on the cloud side. Right. So how we will proceed with this interview. So first you can just brief me about the current architecture of your project. What are your current, how are you contributing to the project or what are your day-to-day activities? And then, you can just name some of the tech stack in which you have got a good hands on, and then we can proceed.
Sure.
Okay. So yes, over to you. We can start with your current architecture of the project, how it is built, or what is your role in that project.
Sure. Thank you for asking. So, currently, I'm working for this health insurance project. So that technology which I use, like Java with a Spring Boot microservices, a Spring Cloud component as a backend, some of the exposures and front end as a Angular. Also, have a good experience in AWS cloud services, which I use for the deployment, development the applications based on the microservices, and
Okay.
some of the services I used communications that which will be from one party to another party, like third parties and all, or internal microservice communication. For that I used, depends on the requirement, REST template and Kafka, and database I used for the Mongo
Mhm.
and NoSQL. So multiple DevOps tools also I used here for this architectures of the current project, like dev tools like Apache Maven, Jenkins, Jira, GitHub, ELK, Splunk and all. So my project is like microservice based architecture, like
So, which design pattern microservice are you using?
design patterns, microservices mostly I use design pattern API gateway, Shaga, orchestration, and then CQRS. These type of things I used in microservices. Others I used in core.
What is the main difference in between using the Saga and orchestrator? Can you name me any real-time scenario in which we will go for a Saga pattern and in which scenario we'll go for orchestrator pattern?
Yeah. So suppose if you have a multiple microservices, and if you want to communicate from one services to another services, and based on that, in each services will have a sub transaction, that like if you are going for the like a restaurant management system, that restaurant management system have multiple microservices, like order initiated, then that order will be accepted by the restaurant, and then once he will accept, then order will be prepared in this kitchens, and then that will be delivered. Then payment will happen by the customer. Once he then the payment.
So, so in this case, how will each service communicate with each other?
Yeah, so that service will communicate each others, will have a as a async communications, that async, because synchronous communication at a time only one request will be handled. So we need to any messaging queue. So here we used Kafka. So once order will be generated, then that will go for the Kafka cluster. So based on the topic, we that order microservice will produce this all the information to the cluster. Respective microservices, like restaurant microservices, payment microservices, and all will
Yeah.
fetch the detail.
In your case, what is this application? In your case, how does it fit
For me,
in
my
your health
case, yeah, the
insurance
my case
domain?
also like
Yeah.
same. We are providing a insurance portal, so that insurance portal, once users will initiate any type of insurance, then initiate insurance will have orders will generated for that, like users has initiated this type of insurance amount of that like that. So yeah, after that it will go for the particular store, so that what type of a stores is there, based on the pin code we will define the stores. Once the stores will be defined it, then we will calculate the price of the insurance, and if users will be applicable for
What is
particular
the load on your application?
uh, load out of like microservices based load you are asking.
Yeah, how many users are accessing your application or how many requests are hitting?
1000 per second is hitting as per this current scenarios.
Okay. So
So
how are you
we
handling the
used load
transactions
balancers
like
here to handle this routing mechanism. Suppose if multiple
How
requests
many
is,
pods are running of your application?
we have right now three pods is running in production,
Okay.
which will be auto
So,
scale from that.
okay.
So Saga,
So let's say,
yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, go on.
So Saga will come in this pictures like if order will be initiated, multiple microservices will process that. So sub transactions will be generated, and once this users will deliver, like once users will get the like receipt for the insurance, like he has already done this type of payment, and then all those things has been completed. Then the final commit will happen. Else, if not, then that will happen like all the respective
How do you
microservices.
configure Kafka in your application?
Kafka, I configured. Sorry, what you ask?
Yeah, how do you configure Kafka in
Yeah,
microservice?
Kafka. First of all, if you want to configure Kafka, then you have to install the Kafka Zookeeper server in your local or in cloud if you have a cloud. And after
Mm-hmm.
that is the same in all microservices, whatever Kafka things you need, add the dependency in your pom.xml, then create a config class like Kafka template and all config class. And after that you have to add the deep resource file property like YAML property. There you can add the Kafka details like replications and all those things, topic names and all. And then you need to auto wire your Kafka template, and then fetch the details from whatever the uh, uh, clusters you have
So
mentioned
this
through that.
was, yeah, right. So this was on the configuration side.
Correct, yeah.
I mean,
Hmm.
having a dependency on two form, creating a consumer and a topics, right?
Correct, yes, yes.
Such dependency onto. But from the code side, right? How you will dump your message to a Kafka?
Yeah, so we have a, like in the code like we'll have a microservices, so that microservices will have a service dot implementation class dot java file, so that there we have a like we need to take the file whatever the clusters which has been defined. So producer is producing the data, then we have to call this file as a consumer, so that consumers will consume the data, and according to that we will first JSON file we have to map. So by using mappers we have to divide it in this different format, and then we will whatever the required information we have to calculate or get these details, and then our business logic will perform the operations, and then the same response we will
Okay.
send to the.
Let's say I want to
Hmm.
look in the message, you can send anything, right? It could
Correct.
be object, it could be a text file, it could be a JSON string, anything.
Yeah.
Now let's say just one simple thing. I want to send one string
Mm-hmm.
to a running cluster in a Kafka.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Let's say the Kafka or a messaging queue that is already running. And now there is a requirement that there is a microservice A, there is a microservice B. The microservice A wants to send one string, maybe you can say a simple string of name, to a microservice B. But both the services are communicating with each other
Mm-hmm.
via a messaging queue, since it is an event-driven mechanism, just a string.
Yeah.
So how will a microservice A will dump a message to a Kafka, and how will a microservice B will consume this message?
Yeah, so we'll have a like a producer and consumer file will be there. So suppose if a microservice will producing the data, then we'll have a producer class. So that producer class will have a scenarios like how they will send the data, what will be the cluster topics, replications, key sets, and all. So the same file we need to auto while in our business logic service implementation class, and there we have to, and consumers like b microservices will have a consumer class which will be consumed from.
What all exceptions or errors do we get while configuring Kafka, or maybe while whenever the Kafka is running? Like, what all exceptions can you come up?
Yeah, so
I mean,
exceptions
yeah.
mostly will have a like data not found, or maybe our cluster is down, or maybe retrieval because request is not coming, so that we use the retrieval and all.
Let's say you are sending one message X, that
Mm-hmm.
since the load is maybe it's a 1000, so continuously it is going. So the
Mm-hmm.
message X is being sent to a Kafka, but at that moment the
Mm-hmm.
Kafka is down.
Correct, yeah.
So what will happen to this message?
In that cases like retrieval because uh, by default they will three attempts which will be retried. Suppose if b microservices is down or maybe some stops or somewhere, then they use retrieval concept, so that you have configured this YAML retrieval as a 3. So that time after that, if three attempts has been success and still our services b microservices has down, in that cases like that you will get some exception.
Okay. But what will happen to your message? The message
Message
is
will be there in the
microservice A
cluster
has.
cluster itself. Once your applications or services will up, then again they will retry that.
Okay. Now coming to our transactions, right? Since we are using a Mongo. So now in three pods, there are the requests are coming.
Yeah.
So how do you maintain the integrity of the data? Right. So let's say basically what I'm over concerned over here is that so the data is again a Mongo. So it is again what's it is a plain data, right? It is not any formatted data. It's the raw data only.
Mm-hmm.
So how you will be aware, right, that you are always getting the updated data or that data is not being tampered by anyone?
Okay.
Yeah.
Dictated.
Let me if you didn't get the question again,
Mm-hmm.
simplify it. Basically, how do you maintain the data integrity of your application? Because that is the biggest concern in the microservice approach.
Yeah, correct. And some acid operations and SAC will be there. I think not sure, but I think acid operations which will be performed transaction annotation, so that transaction annotation will have a multiple property. Through that we can do
Transactional is for a single microservice communication. I mean, if you're using a transaction application, it is within the
single.
same service call. But
Yes.
in microservice, yeah, we are doing a service to service communication, right? So
Yeah.
let's say the service A communication has been successful. It has inserted a data to your database.
Mm-hmm.
Now again the call goes to a next microservice, right? Because they
Mm-hmm.
also need to perform some operation.
Mm-hmm.
But in that case, the call gets broken, maybe due to some error, some validation has failed.
Mm-hmm.
So the microservice A will need to roll back their transaction, right? Or maybe they want to just discard that data.
Mm-hmm.
So how are these things being handled? Because this is pretty much a very common scenario that happens.
Yeah, yeah, that will be handled through the Saga pattern itself. So Saga pattern will use the transaction management, like which will have a
How?
like yeah.
Oh,
So we have a like suppose two microservices A B. So A microservice will communicate it with B microservice, and suppose B microservice is down. So the final commit will depends on the B microservice. One A microservices has done the operations, so the T1 sub transaction has been completed and that is committed, and but B microservices also have a sub transaction of T2 which will be not committed because that because of services is down. So they will roll back of the dependent services also through the Saga
but
pattern. So
how are but how does the saga pattern will come to know? Because it is a Kafka-based communication, as you told, right? So
yeah.
they are just dumping the message. They aren't getting anything back.
Mm-hmm.
So how will they be aware, right, that whether the microservice to communication, I mean, their transaction has been successful or not? How
Mm-hmm.
will this thing take place?
Okay. Yeah. So the status will be like complete, incomplete based on that, which will be in Kafka will have a status, so that the status will update like completed, incompleted, fails and all. Based on that, database operations will perform. And not sure.
Mm.
I think.
Yeah, that's okay. So let's say that that in now coming back to Java, right?
Mm-hmm.
So uh, in which and what is try with resources?
Yeah, try with resources is features which came in I think Java 7 itself. So in that try we can handle multiple catch scenarios on the try itself. Suppose if any type of compile time exceptions which will be there, that we can handle through that. So multiple exceptions we will handle through that by using try with resource.
Uh, Fine. So, I mean, are you leading anyone, or leading a team, or you're working as an individual contributor?
Mostly both I'm working individual contributor with individual contributor with leading the uh,
Hmm. Okay,
like suppose if
let's
new
say.
members and all is coming in this team, then for that we need to
Mhm.
provide this what type of KTs, and if new requirement or particular sprint task will be there, that we have to understand the clarifications for this architectures and all, and then we will define the knowledge to our colleagues, so that we will divide the subtask or we will deliver on time.
Okay, fine. So let's say that a new colleague comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he comes with his code, his or her code for your review.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the things which you take care while reviewing the code?
Sorry, can you repeat once again what you told?
Suppose a new guy, right, who is a fresher,
Yeah.
comes to you to review his code,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So what things do you keep in mind or do you take care
Mm-hmm.
while reviewing anyone else code?
Yeah, so there are multiple things which will be followed. Once he raised the PR, after that we will review the PR. So in this PR level, we have to check the code. So what is first we have to check what is the business requirement. Based on that, what he has developed. So either he have naming conventions and all is fine or not. Loggers and validations he has used proper or not. What type of loggers he has handled after the exceptions, that is proper or not, so that if that will be deployed in production, then easy one anyone can access easily, understand easily the codes and all, if required any debug and all. And validations will check particular fields and all is validated properly, naming convention is fine or not, what are the extra spaces packaging and all has been proper or not. Instead of that,
Anything onto memory management?
yeah, so instead of loop and all, so some of the cases, if he has used iterators and loops and all, for that we can handle some of the expressions based on this framework, by using collections and all we can get it all those things, so that we can check. And so complexity based on the this type, we use the principles, like multiple principles, like a design patterns and solid principle, which is followed or not while we develop or he developed the application.
Okay. Uh, if a table, right, has
Yeah.
a composite primary key,
Mm-hmm.
right? So how do we model that class in using Hibernate ORM in Spring?
Okay, composite primary key is there, and how do we model this class is a,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
If we used Hibernate, then first of all Hibernate will have a model class. We will annotate it with the field we will annotate it with the composite primary key, and Hibernate will have a CFG and mapping XML file where we can
Mhm.
map the field based on the Java object field. And after that, while we call this to repository
But
layer.
what for a composite primary key? It is just for a single ID, right? We are mentioning a ID is equal to in a config file,
Yeah.
but it is having a composite primary key. So two or more fields
Hmm.
will create a single ID. So how you will do it? Let it be. If not in config file, how we'll do it by annotation? Make it simpler. Anything is fine. I mean, you can whatever is comfortable for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Composite.
That's fine. I'll bring you one piece of code. Okay. Tell me what will be the size
Sorry, where? This one.
in chat? You can open the chat.
Mm-hmm. Okay, C1 and C2 is there. Has set you have mentioned. Then you has set. Customer set. Continue. Add C1 and C2. Then what will be the set? Then Adil and 20 Adil. So only one data will be there. Okay, customer set dot size.
Okay. Why?
Because set will be insert a unique data, not a duplicate. So here, based on the uh, both are same only, and size will be 2, 0 and 1.
That's fine. Uh, they both have different objects, right? Though the data is same, objects are different,
Yeah, object are different,
right?
and while we are adding with the C1 and C2, then you want a customer set dot size. So size will be like a 2.
Right. Okay, but we told yeah one initially.
And
This
then
one. So, so what is the real-time application of using Lambda?
real-time applications used in Lambda to like express the your application is faster, and reducibilities, and based on the Lambda expressions we can like we will follows like a large of the applications with the multiple
Mm,
stream APIs and all. While we are creating in that, we can directly use the Lambda functions. So through that uh,
but what
process.
difference it will make even if I'm not using a Lambda, right? And I'm directly using something else. I mean directly. So
Yeah,
let's say
if
the
you
Lambda
used
is
without
object
Lambda, then
creation.
line of code and all will be
Mhm.
increased. Line of code all will be increased, and then processing and all will be
But
like
what was the primary? I mean, this was not the primary thing for introducing Lambda. It is just that it is good, right? I mean, for but it is not a primary usage of Lambda. You can still remove a Lambda. It is just like a what's it, for a beautification, but still it is not an actual application, right? Why the Lambda
yeah,
was introduced.
correct.
So, what was the prime purpose of introducing Lambda?
Mostly, I think for the complexity and time complexity and aspect complexity will be reduced while we used Lambda.
How? Time complexity will be reduced. If I am initiating the object via arrow function, or if I'm
Mm-hmm.
initiating the object via new keyword,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but it will make any difference.
Yeah, so once you will use the by using new keyword, so that new keyword will be define some memory, and there they based on the reference that will be add the data and create a garbage collectors space, and once this will be uh, like unallocated, then remove this GC and all. So that type of functionality will internally JVM will perform. But while you used Lambda expressions in that, instead of that, we are not aware about these things like methods name, specifier, return types and all. Directly based on the Lambda we can create, and easily we will process, so that these things.
Everything is same. If even if you use via normal method signature or via Lambda, its primary purpose was with functional interface. Right? The functional interface was introduced. So you cannot create an object of function
Yeah.
interface since I mean where or wherever there is a single method,
Mm-hmm.
you can directly have its implementation. That's where the Lambda came into picture. So no need of all this doing the tedious tasks to
Mm-hmm.
create it because it is just a single method, right? So you can directly implement it.
Yeah.
Second, okay, coming to Git, right? What is the main difference, or in which case we go for a Git merge and in which case we go for a Git replace?
Gitmos is used like fetch plus commit. Like which will be part of two things. One is Gitmos, like whatever the your branch is there. So suppose if you have modified any changes in your local branch, so you need to check the latest uh, code from your uh, repository branch, so that you have to first you have to get git fetch, and then in that you have to update your changes, so that Gitmos will do. Git rebase, which will be happening like your last commits and all will be there, that you have to remove, I think.
Okay. Git merge is primarily if you want to merge with any other branch, right?
Yeah.
Maybe master or someone else is also working on different branch. So if I want to get those changes to my branch, in that case, we go for a Git merge.
Yes.
And Git rebase is whenever you want to point your head to a different branch.
Mm-hmm.
So entirely, yeah, I mean, your branch will change to a different head.
Different.
So in that case, yeah, we go for a Git rebase. Mm, that's fine. So yeah, coming to the database, Mongo. So if I want to create a brand new document or a collection,
Mm-hmm.
okay, from my Spring Boot application. So let's say that I have got a data of a employee, a
Yeah.
very simple example,
Mm-hmm.
ID, name, and a salary. That's all. So
Mm-hmm.
if I want to persist that data
Mm-hmm.
to a document is, let's say, encora, and the collection is employee. So how we will do it? How we'll do it from my boot application?
Okay, if you want encora and client, okay, so that.
Yeah, the document is encora and the collection is employee. So in this collection, I want to persist this three data: ID, name, and salary.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I want to know, I mean, what things we will follow, right?
Yeah, yeah,
While connecting to a Mongo and while persisting the data to this collection
yeah, so first
from
of
our
all,
Java
you
application.
need to create a Spring Boot application there, add the dependency of a Spring Boot,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, Mongo database
Mm-hmm.
connectivity, and then add the dependency of Mongo related things in application.yml. Create a Mongo template
Okay.
config file, which will be there in this common file or config. And after that, you have to create a like model class, so that model classes will have a collections and document. So that document you have to mention in Quora on the classes which you have created, like employee detail, so that employee details will have a in Quora employee detail. So on classes level you create this document, and after that we'll have a collection, so that collections name will provide what you told
Anything, that's fine, Ample. So, how will my this class, right,
mhm.
will communicate with Mongo? I mean, there are certain annotations we need to do on top so that the class will be mapped to a Mongo collection or like Mongo document.
Yeah, so yes, so in resource repository, that repository which have
Mhm.
interface, there we need to add the Mongo operations, so that Mongo operations will be taken care, like what type of models you have created. That models is a like a value, and then sorry, ID, and based on the string type value will be there, and you need to auto wire this Mongo template. So based on that, applications will behave like this is the Mongo related calls. And while we used resource repository file, there we have add the query.
Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, again, again, one simple code snippet. I'll ping you. Okay, so there is a array of a simple array of numbers 1 to 55. It could go on and on. And in my output, I want, okay, maybe I can just again ping with a different input. This might be confusing. That's the number I've given in order.
This is a array of
So
one, two,
this is the
three, five,
input.
six, and input.
Yeah, this is input. Just ignore the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And in my output, I want. So in my output, I want every alternate character to be doubled, right? That is,
Mm-hmm.
so just alternate characters I want, the number at odd position and those values has to be double. So I just write a simple code snippet using string, Java string.
Mm-hmm.
Syntax and everything is fine. Just
Which will
uh,
be a start from
setting.
starting, and all the alternate
Hmm.
number will be double.
Yeah.
So 4, 18, and 48. Okay.
So 2 is double to 4, 9 is double to 18, and 24 is double to 48.
By using Java stream, you want, right?
Yeah.
List of this dot stream. Yeah, man. One, next. Then I plus one. Plus one. Then okay. Let's go back to square of that. Y plus one. Then square. First of all, we will create a stream, so that list.stream will process the data, and in
Okay. Hmm.
map we will create a reference of input as a square of iterating from one plus next to next, then next to next, next to next, like that. So based on the lambda in a square of I plus 1, and then collect to list.
So IN is a input, right? And
Yeah.
square of I plus 1.
Mm-hmm. Index of I plus 1 will be there, so that will start from 2
And
to 9. 14.
And where are we passing the index?
uh, square of uh, inside this square of method we will pass the index
Yeah, yeah,
in.
I got, but where is the I getting passed? So in is basically I.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, map of in is I.
Mm-hmm.
It is like a typo. You have written map of, then it is in.
A square of
So in,
I plus 1, so index of I plus 1 will be there here, so that will be compare 1 9 4 24, which will be a square of.
okay, because you're passing as the in, right?
Yes.
And then it is in the square function, you are passing just I.
Mm-hmm.
So did you mean, I mean, I'm not getting.
No,
So
no, that
why?
in will
Because,
be there, in of
so where is in?
just a
Where
minute.
is the number, the in which you have passed? In is a number, right? That is like traversing. So it will basically start from the first digit
Mm-hmm.
map of, and then we are squaring it. So all the numbers will be squared. 2, then it will be 25, then 18, 22. That's how it will be done.
Mm-hmm. Filters here, filter will
So it is inserted in the database and filters lecture will run. So she might be from there if this going to the result. Can you check the is that time respond? So
Right. So where do we, I mean, anything you can think of where we can use the optional? I mean, I don't want that answer that, yeah, wherever the null is a possible, but any real-time uh, examples in real-time application or
yeah,
in your
real-time
application.
applications null mostly we use, like suppose uh, if users are initiating order and that order id is not generated or somewhere, like so that like not in order id, like like a promo code and all, like suppose if users will get
Mm-hmm.
the promo, so that promo
Okay.
amount, so that promo code is not applicable for the any type of customer, some of the customer, or maybe that right now promo is not available because the promo expirations
Okay.
has been already done as 12 p.m. Now
Right.
customer is trying to initiate at 1 p.m. So in that cases we will
Mm.
handle the optional, so like if promo has been expired or not available right now the situation, so that
Mm.
customer will initiate the order without a promo, so optional will take care of the nullable of null and all, so that without of validation of promo, that will be taken care of the payments and all.
In microservice, how it is that? Because mainly in microservice, it is extensively used.
Which
Optional.
optional
Yeah.
uh, depends on the different scenario which I told,
Mm-hmm.
like first is like this is also a
Okay.
microservices, like optional,
Right.
suppose if users want to retrieve this
Mm.
address details or nearby locations, so customer will initiate the order in that some nearby locations or something of
Yeah, yeah. That's fine.
that
Fine,
things.
fine, fine. Okay. Where are you checking your logs?
Mostly I used Splunk and ELK, that we configure in all
Okay.
microservices. Through that we can check the
Mm-hmm.
log, or this way or there while be deploying application on uh,
Mm-hmm.
CI/CD. Through that also Jenkins also will provide a logs that will be there. But
So
applications
if
log and all
any,
will be so,
so
so
if
the.
any production bug has arise,
Mhm.
okay. So in that case, how do we, I mean, how do you check? Let's say that in your health application, there
Yeah.
is a bug which has come up.
Mhm.
The data is not getting updated. I mean, maybe instead of Amarjit, the data is getting updated as Adit. So then, how do you debug the application?
Yeah, first of all, we will initiate the same request in our productions, or once customer has raised at the based on the timestamp or customer ID or unique ID, we will capture the logs through the Splunk. So Splunk will have options which will provide based on the trace ID, some unique ID, timestamp. We will collect the log, and after that we will see like what type of business scenario is failing,
Yes.
which
Yes.
microservices
One
is
zero
hitting,
three and zero
and
two.
what type of controller is hitting, and then the
Maybe
same we
this
will
is
initiate in our
reliable.
local. We will clone up the our productions code in our local machine. We'll try to initiate the same controller where they are trying to
So for
fetch
the
the detail,
normal flow, smart thing, ना? मतलब normal
and then
मतलब
we will check the conditions.
like information is some.
So how to configure, basically to get this trace ID or application ID, what things do we do in the application?
Yeah, applications like once you used Splunk, so that Splunk is a tools that is DevOps tools that we can configure in our microservices, and you add this dependency configurations in YAML property. Then your applications will behave like what are the logs will be generated. That logs through that Splunk UI we can see all those things. So there will be have inbuilt database which call
And
in
like
Splunk.
free and
Through that we can
self-test
also
example will be
optimize the query, or write the query to get the details,
okay.
or timestamp, unique ID, and trace ID, so that all microservices while initiating in this productions, that will be
No,
generate the trace ID, so
no.
that we can find it based on the customer. And if
Okay.
Mm. Okay.
Hmm. That's done from my end. Anything, any questions from your side?
which type of project you are hiring right now, like what type of domain technology you are hiring?
Onto tech stack wise, yeah, I can say tech stack is mainly onto microservice because most of the projects are running onto the microservice architecture. Messaging queue, yeah, it can vary. Some are using RabbitMQ, but mainly it is into Kafka.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for a cloud, it is AWS.
Okay.
Onto the text, yeah, and Java 11, main
Mm-hmm.
Java 11
Okay,
is going on.
sure.
So on account wise, yeah, I'm not sure because we generally come from this hiring side.
Mm-hmm.
So we are not aware onto the HR side that for which we just get a profile is getting filled.
Ah.
Sure, sure. Yeah. Thank you for that information.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.